We are back at the ADDA and we have with us Naveen Tiwari. Naveen is one of the most unique people in the world, and especially in the Indian ecosystem, super unique because there are only three people that I know in the tech ecosystem who have created two unicorns in their life. And Naveen, besides the fact that he's been the first unicorn in India, has just created a second company which has turned a unicorn. So let's start with the first question, Naveen. Naveen, where do you hide your two unicorn, horns? Welcome to the ADDA, Naveen.
Thank you so much, and I'm so excited to get the ADDA. I was telling you when you pinged me the other day that this ADDA is like one of the most prominent part of this event, and you've built a phenomenal thing. You should just go ahead and replace the.
Welcome to the ADDA, Naveen.
Thank you so much, and I'm so excited to get the ADDA. I was telling you when you pinged me the other day that this ADDA is like one of the most prominent part of this event, and you've built a phenomenal thing. You should just go ahead and replace the what is that coffee with Karan with the ADDA going forward.
Chai on the ADDA. Chai on the ADDA.
Chai on the ADDA. That is so cool. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Naveen. Naveen, tell us, jokes apart, I think factually you've created a formidable machine, I would say, of, and a track record of creating these two unicorns, which is actually a very exceptional feat for anybody. How did it start? Started with M-Coach when you were starting that, did you ever feel you will end up doing this?
Probably not. I think a lot of these things are part of a process of evolution, and you start to learn. I think one thing I would say, with entrepreneurship is something that's like wine, right? It actually improves with experience, and therefore, and hopefully we are trying to improve with our experience of trying to do lesser of the old mistakes and maybe create and do new mistakes. But I think it's been a process of evolution in a very interesting way, because of course we have had our own ups and downs in the journey of InMobi to begin with, and then as you get that journey back on track and you get that going in a way it is going right now, you also learn so many new ways of doing things, of innovation, of managing the teams, and managing the process of running a company, which is very, very critical. And I think you dismiss a lot of the things that seem to be a lot more important, like the valuation, the fundraise, the media, a lot of those things. You start to kind of not get impacted by it. It's easy to say, maybe hard to put it in practice, and then you go down the process of doing the simple things. And I think one of the things that we have learned a hard way, and it took us time, was that you just got to do the simple things again and again and again, and do them, just like they're boring, but you just got to do those things.
Very good. And I remember sitting in a plane with you, and you were telling me about Glance at that time. Like, we're doing this thing new kind of stuff. It was so early. And today I see it as a unicorn. So it flipped out of something which you were doing, a simple thing which you picked out and built like that. So how did that idea come on, and why did you decide to kind of make this into a separate company and then give it life of its own?
A long time back, we were always, as we built our advertising machinery, one of the things that we realized was, in order for us to differentiate ourselves from the likes of Google and the Facebooks of the world, who are a dominant player in the advertising space, we needed to go deep in certain industries and work very closely with them. As part of that process, we were working very deeply in the telco and the OEM space. Now, as you think about that space, one of the things that they have is an asset, which is a device asset. And we were trying to figure out how can advertising be kind of very deeply and nicely embedded into the devices, such that it adds value to the consumers. Now, in that process, a handful of team members kind of, also started to look at the lock screen. And we realized that if you try to put ads on the lock screen, you're killing the whole experience, and it's dead on arrival. At that point of time, my co-founder then, who's Amit Gupta, who's now running Yulu, kind of took a small group of people together and literally restarted this whole process of evolution in a small conference room. And I think we see a lot of the success of where we are with Glance today. But that 1.5 years of him kind of being in that room really helped shape what Glance turned out to be eventually. And I think that process of that was the process where we said we should reimagine the surface, we should reimagine the lock screen. And that's what we've done. We fundamentally believe there is no reason for consumers to keep going to the phones if they can go ahead and look at what's really happening on the surface. And if instead of us trying to figure out what to see, let the artificial intelligence tell you what you should see and do it on the surface. And I think that's the vision with which we are building Glance, and it's now reached that stage where I believe it's mainstream and it's already in front of like hundreds and hundreds of millions of people, and we are seeing massive massive utilization of it. But I think that the thing that we tried to do differently was not try to force our way to we were very clear that we got to get the product market fit right, and once that's there, then you can scale it. And I think that's what took us time to get to. And then, of course, once you started to see scale and get everything right, it made sense to spin it off because it has its own life and should, it can become a very, very large company.
So what's next then? Which is the next unicorn?
we have now two beasts on our hand, and they're very, very amazing beasts. And so we, for now at least, are very settled, and we just want to grow those two, to the next level.
On a personal note, you look at the ecosystem. What are the few trends that you think are going to accelerate? And especially with the pandemic, things have changed dramatically.
Yeah,
so just a bit of advice on that.
Look, I think the pandemic has changed many things. It's basically brought technology into our lives a lot more than we would have expected. So the next whatever was expected to happen in the next 5-7 years happened in this 1 year. So decade has started off like Sehwag opening the batting, right, and just going crazy. Now, of course, it had massive impact also on the lives of people. But from a technology perspective, that certainly has happened. And therefore, I think from a trend point of view, I think people should be looking at, every industry and how that industry will be different. And I don't think there is a single industry that's not going to be impacted, right? We've seen how commerce is changing. We're seeing how education is changing. We've seen, how entertainment, gaming, like everything is changing out there, right? So I don't see a single industry that's not necessarily impacted. But I actually think that in order for us to function, I think everybody has to put artificial intelligence as the way to enter into any industry. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. We are still very people-driven in India, very, let's put a lot of people on the job and then let's get it done as a mindset, because we still think that's a easier and the faster way to scale. But I think every dimension, like what we have also not realized, by the way, that over the last 3 to 5 years, artificial intelligence has also taken an S curve of a very different nature, which means that it's now mainstream. And yes, there are few companies. Every one of us talks about it, by the way, don't get me wrong. But how many of your processes and systems and decisions is AI the number one thing? How many of your engineers basically think AI first? How many of your product managers are AI first product managers, right? So, and how many of your executives are AI first, who only ask the first question, say, how do I do this with artificial intelligence, and not write a logic behind that. So I think those are two, they're two orthogonal points, but I think both of those are very valid in my view, and I think we should absolutely, figure that out.
Naveen, that is such formidable advice, and I hope people would listen to this and think about it first, and especially since it's NPC. So I think there are a lot of product managers, people thinking about it.
Yeah,
you need to be AI first. Thank you, Naveen. Thank you for being with us on the ADDA, and we'll see you soon. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.